Okay, so I said that I'd make a video of some things that you can do on hot days that you can still work with your horse and not get all hot and sweaty. Um, Something I want to talk about is, just because it's hot outside doesn't mean you can't work with your horse. Most horses don't spend their time in an air-conditioned stall like we do in our house. They're out there in a stall or a pasture, so they've gotten used to this heat as we go along and the days get hotter and longer. So we usually are in a house, go from air conditioning to the intense heat, and we kind of suffer a little bit for it. Horses aren't so bad, so we can't just baby them. That doesn't mean if a horse hasn't worked in 2 months to take them out and race them up and down the road. That's not fair to them either. But keep in mind that you can work a horse and do your usual work if the horse is acclimated to it. And let's face it, if you're going to go to a horse show or a big event like a trail ride, it might be on a hot day. So really, you're going to benefit your horse from working on these hot days. But let's just say you don't want to sweat a lot. And most of the things when we don't want to do something comes from us. We don't want to get hot and sweaty. That's fine. It's supposed to be an enjoyable thing. So we'll go through some things that we can do that we don't have to get hot and sweaty, and our horse doesn't have to get hot and sweaty. So for me, ground manners are going to be paramount. So hot days are a great day to work on it because usually our horses aren't hot and fresh. Maybe they're hot. They're not fresh and frisky, and they're a little more willing to kind of go your way. So you can work on simple things like, does your horse back up when you ask him to back up? Does he go where you point? Does he move his shoulders around? Can he move his hindquarter around? I'm not going to go into a lot about teaching that, but those are pretty simple things you can find about anywhere. Is get those ground manners great. And you can do that 5 to 10 minutes and work on each of those exercises, and in 10 minutes you're done. So that would be something you could work on every day when you bring your horse in and out, and you kind of still have that relationship with your horse, and you got to work on a little bit of something and maybe improve your skills. So the first exercise we're going to work on is standing still when you put the saddle on. And a lot of people you see struggle with this, and I show it a lot of my horses, but I got the request of, well, how do you actually make that happen? And so we'll go through what we would do if this horse was to move when we asked him to ground tie for saddling. So first, we're going to start with the rope in our hand because, assuming this horse doesn't stand still for being saddled, we got to start somewhere. So what I do is we're going to make sure our horse can back up out of our space without us moving. That would be paramount to me, is I need to be able to back this horse away from me without me having to go with him all the time. So, put a little pressure on him and ask him to back on my space. You can get it done the other way, but you're going to struggle because if you have to keep moving around and getting in front of him to tell him to stop, then you're kind of behind. But the number one thing is we're going to allow our horse to move if we throw something at him and he gets a little worried. Most people try to hold the horse still and say, stay still, stay still, stay still, don't move, like that, and then the horse really never learns anything. Remember, we want him to make mistakes. So if my horse had trouble standing still when I was going to saddle him, then I'd just get me a really lightweight blanket and I would just throw it at him. Start as slow as you have to. If your horse is really petrified of this, you may just barely do something like this. But you're just the goal would be can I throw this all over his body and him not care? I'm going to turn so you can see us a little bit. So I'm going to keep my rope really loose. I'm not going to try to hold him to stand him still like this. I'm going to try to have it loose enough that he can make a mistake. That's again where people go wrong, is they never want that horse to make mistakes, so they just kind of babysit him all the time. But maybe I need to throw it here. Maybe I need to throw it here. Maybe I need to throw it here. We do this on all of our horses before we ever ride them. We want to do it on both sides. So here's a good place to move his shoulders around. Good job. I'll move you a little more so they can see you. I like to saddle from both sides, so I want to make sure I can do this from both sides. So as you can see, he's pretty good with it. But people will ask, well, what do I do if he moves? Well, let's say I did this and he got worried. He's not. But if he did, then I would allow him to go backwards or sideways for as long as he wants, and I would keep throwing it at him. So I'm going to simulate it because he's not bad. But let's say I did this and he got worried. Well, we'd let him back up, and we'd just keep throwing at him, being very casual. You know, you won't stand straight in front of him where you can get run over, but you can be very casual, and you're going to keep throwing it at him until he slows down a little bit, licked his lips, and I'll retreat. That is the number one thing, is allowing them to move. So, say I start this and he gets worried again. He starts backing up. So I'll just keep doing it, till he stands still. This is a great hot day exercise because guess what? He doesn't want to put a lot of effort into running away from this. So, sorry. This is great. Most horses really, especially to the saddle pad, aren't going to move much, but if they do, that just shows you there's a hole somewhere in your training. Go back and fix this. The other thing they'll do is they'll go sideways. Let's say I'm back here, and he's like, oh, shoot. I'm going to make him move. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, he says. Then I just stay with him until he stands still. And you can tell he's not taking the bait. He's like, no, I am not moving. I'm not supposed to. It doesn't get me anywhere. But now if he did do that, let's say he did this and he tried to run forward. That is where I would bump my halter and say, no, no, no. You're allowed to ride him sideways, but you're not allowed to go forward. And the reason for that is they can go forward for a long time and you'll wear out. So we teach all of our horses that the crazier we are, the more you should stand still, because that's what gets rid of it. There's so many things that we can do with a horse that if we can show them that standing still gets rid of the crazy, that they'll make them a better horse for everything we want to do to them. So this is important, and it's just really easy to do. As long as you watch what you're doing and making sure you're not micromanaging them. So then, let's say you get that good, and just use a towel if you have to. Just use something that's easy for you to throw, and he's good with that. So now we're going to throw the rein down, and we're going to try it here. And if he moved, I usually do it by my open door on purpose, just to kind of encourage them to move, because I want them to make mistakes. But if he moved, I would just quickly grab that, say, no, no, and then go back to it. Immediately let go again. When I say, and then let it go, they know what they did wrong. Let's say he looks like he doesn't want me to do it on his face, so let's just do it on his face. Why? Because we can. And so if he was to overreact to that, I would just keep it up. See how he's turning his head away from me? Maybe it's not the most polite thing to do, but let's just pretend we're a kid and we don't know better. I just do it till he stops resisting. Take it away. Everything we do with the horse is keep the pressure up till they stop resisting, stop being worried about it. Take it away. See how his head's straight when I'm doing this? Ah, nice. So up there, he kind of turned his head away from me, so I'm not going to take the pressure away when he tries to turn the head away. Good. So, I mean, you can use this for everything. It's the go-to exercises. Let them move their feet when they're nervous. Keep doing what they're a little bit worried about until they stop moving their feet. Retreat and repeat until he doesn't care about it at all. So let's go back to the saddle. So let's go here where they can see you, buddy. So I'm going to do everything from this side just so you guys can see it. And I'm going to drop my rope. There's room for him to go somewhere. Again, allow him to make mistakes. Throw my saddle pad on him a couple times, make sure there's no worries. And you can kind of tell if they're going to move. You can kind of sense a little bit of something in their posture. So just be ready for it. Don't stop them. Just be ready for it. And then the saddle's the hard part, right? Sometimes I struggle getting the saddle up there. So, this is where the horses move. Well, You know, you could keep throwing it at them. I mean, it's hard to do with a Western saddle. You'll get tired, so you can go to something lighter. It's not usually the saddle, it's the noise and all that. So just go back to your saddle pad, kind of get that good. And then I'm gonna take this behind me and swing. Good job. Right here, I'm gonna move his feet again. Good. I like to practice my groundwork when I'm saddling, because then I get to move all his body parts around and see if he's resistant anywhere or fearful anywhere. And then I don't have to just go and practice groundwork. We spend about 6 weeks probably teaching all this groundwork, start to finish. But then after that, we rarely just practice it just to practice it, because we want to put it into real life skills. So at any point here he was to walk forward, we would just bump his halter, remind him that's not what we want and it's not beneficial for him. And then we would go on with what we're doing. I think we got a stallion in the background trying to tease a mare. It happens. Same thing with the cinching. If you want to move when I cinch them, I might back them up a step or two. But generally, I find that if they're standing still for the saddle and they're really quiet with it and they move when you cinch them, I found it's almost always a chiropractic type issue. It's a sign of discomfort somewhere. It could be a learned habit, but it might be something for you to kind of look at and see if that's not another reason. If he's quiet for everything, putting the saddle on, everything's good, but when you tighten it, you feel discomfort, there might be something else you need to look at. I kind of tighten in 3 times, a little bit when I get it on. I'll put the bridle on, tighten it again, and then before I mount, I'll tighten it again. But my first horse had no wither, and I didn't know about a breast collar holding the saddle on, and I fell off a lot. I wonder why. Hit my head. All right, good job. So we'll back them up here. So that's a really good exercise to do when it's hot. Really any time, but it took a few minutes to do. Even if he needed work on it, maybe the first day you would just do the saddle pad or the blanket until he's really good. Second day you have to work on that again. You won't go to the saddle until he's really quiet about it. Then go to the saddle. But if it takes you a week, at the end of a week you got a really nice horse that's standing ground tied to be saddled. So I would take it all day of the week, and you built on your resume, on his skills, and your relationship. Good job, buddy. Where are you going? You want some ribbed? Okay.